Welcome to Water Level. Today, we're taking a detailed look at the current water levels of Lake Powell and Lake Mead as of the beginning of October 2025. These two reservoirs are the most critical storage points along the Colorado River system, and the numbers show where they stand today compared to past years. In this update, we'll break down the current elevations, inflows, outflows, and the patterns seen over the past 12 months, while comparing both lakes side by side. Starting with Lake Powell, the most recent reading taken on October 2, 2025, shows the water level at 3,544.56 feet. That elevation represents a storage of roughly 2.19 trillion gallons of water, a massive volume, yet still far below where the lake would be if it were full. The lake is currently 155 feet below full pool, which is set at 3,700 feet. In terms of percentage, Powell is holding just over 27% of its maximum capacity. At the dam itself, the water depth measures about 412 feet, a depth that remains impressive but also illustrates how much the lake has dropped compared to past highs. The year-to-year comparison tells an even clearer story. Right now, Lake Powell is down by more than 33 feet compared to where it stood 1 year ago, showing how much the system has continued to decline. Water movement through the system provides another perspective. Since the start of the new water year, which began October 1st, inflows into Powell total about 24,600 acre-feet. That is about 70% of the typical average for early October. At the same time, releases through Glen Canyon Dam have totaled over 32,000 acre-feet. That means water is flowing out faster than it is flowing in, with outflows exceeding inflows by nearly 8,000 acre-feet. As a result, Powell's storage has already fallen by more than 8,400 acre-feet in the first couple of days of the water year. Looking at the past 12 months, the trend is clear. Through the fall and winter of last year, the lake saw a steady decline, slipping below 3,560 feet by the time spring arrived. Through April and May, the lake stabilized somewhat and even showed a small bump in early summer. But that gain was short-lived, and by July, levels started slipping again. That downward movement has continued into early autumn, bringing us to the present elevation of 3,544 feet. Upstream reservoirs that feed Powell are also below full capacity, averaging about 68% full. That sets the stage for potentially weaker inflows through the coming year, unless snowpack and runoff prove stronger than expected. Turning to Lake Mead, the story is somewhat different. As of October 3, 2025, the lake's elevation is at 1,057.63 feet above sea level. Compared to full pool at 1,229 feet, Mead is down about 171 feet. While that's a large deficit, Mead has been showing a slightly steadier trend compared to Powell. In fact, since yesterday, the lake has risen by 0.05 feet, showing at least a short-term gain. Although daily changes like this are small, they can indicate moments when inflows are outpacing losses. Looking at the broader pattern of this past year, Lake Mead has experienced fluctuations that are less dramatic than Powell's. Early in 2025, the lake climbed to above 1,065 feet before declining again in late spring, dipping to just under 1,055 feet by early summer. Since July, the levels have seen a mild recovery, bringing the lake back to the current 1,057 feet. Compared to 2024, the numbers are lower, but they remain significantly higher than the crisis lows of 2023, when the lake dropped to dangerously low elevations before rebounding. When comparing the two reservoirs side by side, Powell has suffered the sharper losses. In the past year alone, Powell dropped over 33 feet, while Mead has managed to hold more stable, losing far less and even showing recent gains. That difference matters since Powell serves as the upstream reservoir that directly feeds Mead through Glen Canyon Dam. If Powell's storage continues to shrink, it inevitably affects how much water can be released downstream to help sustain Mead. The health of these two legs is central to the entire Southwest. Together, they provide water supplies for tens of millions of people across several states, generate hydroelectric power at both Glen Canyon and Hoover dams, and sustain agricultural production through irrigation deliveries. With Powell at just 27% of its capacity and Mead sitting far below full pool as well, the challenges remain clear. Even though both reservoirs still hold massive amounts of water, they are operating with far less margin than in the past. Looking forward, the new water year is only just beginning. The most important period for recovery will come in the spring when mountain snowpack begins to melt and inflows increase. Typically, this is when Powell sees its largest gains, which in turn supports Mead. But until that runoff arrives, the immediate trend suggests that Powell may continue to slip lower, while Mead may only manage to hover near current levels. The next several months will set the tone for how the system balances out through 2026. To summarize the situation as of early October 2025, Lake Powell stands at 3,544.56 feet, more than 33 feet lower than last year, and holding only about a quarter of its maximum storage. Lake Mead is at 1,057.63 feet, 171 feet below full pool, but showing slightly better stability in recent weeks. The long-term concerns for both lakes remain, but the near-term outlook is one of watching closely how inflows and outflows balance during this new water year. Thank you for watching this update. Be sure to stay tuned as we continue to track these water levels and share the latest data as it comes in. If you find these updates useful, consider subscribing to the channel for regular coverage of the Colorado River system and its reservoirs.